All right. My goodness. Finally, after a few updates on my computer, a few unfinished. No, actually, I did finish one of these podcasts, and it just didn't go through. But finally, here we go. Johnny on the track, back with another episode. Indy road course this weekend. Should be a fun one. We got back-to-back road courses. This week it's Indy. Next week it's Watkins Glen. Should be pretty entertaining. 3 races left before the playoffs, and things really heat up at this time of the season. Just real quick, as many of you know, going to continue to plug it. The partnership between myself and the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Whether you're watching on YouTube and you can see my face right now, I appreciate it. Or if you're just listening via the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast feed, appreciate you as well. The Betting Preview Show is Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitter Spaces. But, you know, my podcast here is a part of their feed, so you can watch us listen, I should say, every Tuesday. Appreciate the guys over there, as always. And if you want to find my stuff, at JOTT_podcast on Twitter, and Johnny on the Track on Action Network. So with that, let's get right into it. We've got a good one. We've got a wild one. Indy Road. Now, first of all, let me just say this. I hope this weekend we get the big announcement that NASCAR is no longer going to race the road course. They're going to go back to the oval. Or I don't know, maybe every 4 years they go to the oval. I don't really care. I just want them to be back to the oval. Like, Indy, in my opinion, is a place where I understand IndyCar kind of rules that circuit and rules that track. But to me, NASCAR needs to be racing on the Brickyard. We just have to. So I don't know if it's going to happen. I hope it happens, but I'm going to say it to speak it into existence. But even with that, I don't mind Indy Road because it's always a wild race. I mean, that is for sure. So with that, let's get into the betting aspect of this whole thing. I really don't think we're going to see another ringer win. Now, I know SVG did what he had to do and got a win at Chicago, but I think Chicago was a different animal, a totally different animal, I should say. First of all, the conditions were wet and crazy, and it was a brand new kind of, first time thing that NASCAR did. So I kind of put that in a league of its own. NASCAR guys at this point know this track. They know the Indy road course. So I do think we're going to see the NASCAR guys kind of, get back to winning a road course race. So as good as I think SVG will be, as good as I think Brody Kostecki, and I hope I'm saying that name right, Brody Kostecki will be as well. I think they'll have fast cars. I think they'll run well. I do think in the end, a NASCAR guy is going to pull this thing out. The other thing I'll note real quick, restarts are going to be crazy. The best way to gain positions is going to be on restarts. You look at guys like Allmendinger, like Ty Gibbs, like Michael McDowell, like Daniel Suarez, looking for points. It's got to come from restarts because that is the easiest way to gain quick positions. Remember now, no stage breaks. No stage breaks. So does that influence, but still stage points, I should say. I should add that in. Does that influence an AJ Allmendinger? Does that influence a Ty Gibbs, a Michael McDowell, a Daniel Suarez? Does that influence how these guys run this race? I'm not sure. I think McDowell is going to be going for the win. I think Allmendinger is going to be going for the win. But a guy like Suarez and Gibbs, 2 guys that I don't think are going to have the cars to win this thing, I think maybe that's going to play into them having a little bit different strategy, getting those stage points early, and, maybe not in the end having that kind of, top 5, top 10 finish. Maybe it's around a 12th to 15th, but they took points early on, to kind of build that points cushion, whether you're inside or on the outside looking in. So we got to keep all that stuff in mind. But like I said, this shouldn't take too long at this point. I think a lot of the big names, I don't think the number is going to lie here. So the big names like Reddick, like Allmendinger, like a Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr., Chase. If I didn't mention Chase Elliott as well. I think those names are going to stand out this weekend. Like I said, I know Indy is crazy. I know guys go into turn one like a bat out of hell, banging into people to try to get as many positions as possible. I understand that. But I do think our big names, Allmendinger, Reddick, Truex, Elliott, Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher. I'm going to throw Kyle Busch into that mix. I like all those guys this weekend. I think all those guys are going to be top tier cars competing for the win. I threw in the name Kyle Busch. I really like Kyle Busch this weekend. You look at him at road courses this year: 4th fastest car at Sonoma, 6th fastest car at COTA. Didn't have it at Chicago, but 2 really good race cars early in the season at COTA and Sonoma, like I mentioned. And then last year, right, Tyler Reddick led basically every lap here, and was the fastest car in every segment in that 8 car. So I think that 8 car is going to be fast. I think Kyle Busch is going to be fast. RCR in general has had speed at road courses. You look at Austin Dillon this year, he was 11th fastest at COTA and 13th fastest at Chicago. So RCR, I think they're going to be solid this week. I think Kyle Busch is a guy that if you're not thinking AJ, if you're not thinking Chase, McDowell, Truex, Reddick, if you're not thinking those names, I think Kyle Busch is a guy that you might want to throw a play on for sure. Maybe it's a top 5, maybe it's a top 3. I think this race could fit right into Kyle's hands, if you will. He's not going for points. He's just going for wins to gather, to gain that points cushion in the playoffs. So I like Kyle Busch this weekend. I think you have to look at McDowell, 3rd fastest car at Sonoma, 3rd fastest car at Chicago, 2nd fastest overall this year on road courses. The dude's been an animal. Buescher, same thing. I know he's won 2 in a row. Wouldn't be surprised, honestly, at this point, if he can win 3 in a row. He's been very close at road courses. 2nd fastest at Sonoma, 6th fastest at Chicago, 4th fastest overall this year on road courses. He's also a guy that's finished top 10 in every next gen road course except COTA. So last year's COTA race is the only race in the next gen era that Chris Buescher has not finished top 10. So to me, you pound a top 10 bet, and maybe it's a top 4 bet for Buescher. I think that's a good prop bet. I would say the same thing for McDowell, top Ford. Another guy that I think a prop bet that you could throw on for top Ford is Chase Briscoe. He's 60 to 1 plus 6,000 to win. He's plus 1,200 for the top Ford. When he was a rookie, it looked like he could possibly win this thing. I know he hasn't had speed this year, but I was high on him early this season. I think at this point, really throughout the whole rest of the season, including playoffs, this to me is Chase Briscoe's best chance to win a race. I mean, maybe you could look at Bristol Night, maybe you could look at Martinsville at the end. But I don't know. I think at that point in the season, it's going to be those playoff guys that kind of set themselves apart. So, do I think he'll bring a fast car? At this point, I don't really know, but I think he's a very good race car driver when it comes to the Indy road course. So if they do bring a fast car, which again, not sure if they can, because as we look at the road course rankings this year, Chase Briscoe sits 23rd in overall speed at road courses, and only one time has he had a top 20 overall speed at a road course. It was the first one at COTA, and it was the 20th. He was the 20th fastest car. So I don't know if Chase Briscoe can bring something here, but I will say on a positive note with Stewart-Haas Racing, Eric Almirola wasn't bringing very fast cars, and he goes to his favorite track, New Hampshire, and they got the second fastest car there. So, I mean, maybe there's something there with Chase Briscoe, but I wouldn't put our hopes on it. So that's why I'm thinking more of a small unit bet on him being the top Ford. A lot of the Fords, I mean, you look at Blaney, Harvick, Keselowski, not really what we would think of kind of road course guys. At this point, it's McDowell and Buscher. So, Briscoe would kind of be up against those guys. Couple other names here. I think if you want a huge underdog bet in both aspects of winning and top 10, I'm going to throw out the name Ryan Preece, plus 40,000 to win, plus 1,000 for a top 10. You look at Ryan Preece, he's 18th fastest overall this year in road courses. He was 14th at Chicago, 18th at Sonoma, and 18th at COTA. But those numbers are a little deceiving because he had a real good run going at COTA and got spun out. He had an easy top 10, got spun out late. I think he was running around 7th. And again, brought a pretty good solid car to Sonoma. And I think if things play out a little differently there, I think Priest locks in a top 10 there. This team, meaning the 41 team, has been good on two things: short tracks and road courses. That's it. So I think Priest, especially with Indy road course, like I said, with turn one being crazy, with people fighting for positions, I think the 41 team at this point is kind of done being pushed around. So I think he'll be kind of in on that mayhem, if you will, just going in and kind of having no regard for the rest of the cars out there. I think there's a lot of names that's going to happen with Suarez. I would put as a guy who might barrel it in. Obviously, we know Chastain, Austin Dillon, another guy, Cindric, right on the outside looking in, needs a win, good at road courses. I expect him to have an aggressive driving style. This is going to be a wild race for sure. And that's why I think it's going to play into the hands of these NASCAR guys. Again, just another point to add. As much as I like SVG and Brody Kostecki and some of those other names, I don't know if they can handle what we're going to see from some of these NASCAR guys trying to get into the playoffs. So listed out a lot there. Allmendinger, I said that. Reddick, Chase Elliott, I think are your top three to win this thing. Kyle Busch, McDowell, I think two of those, smaller unit bets to win a little bit bigger. And then you've got your Buscher top 10, maybe another long shot, and Priest, Briscoe, guys that you could throw top 10s on. So I think there's a lot to go with here. Again, I don't really have the typical format I do of winning top 5, top 10. I just kind of have a bunch of names here. I think that is the best way to go about this particular race and sometimes road courses in general. But as I mentioned, the numbers do not lie in the next gen era at road courses. Put aside Chicago, the ones we've raced on in the next gen era, the numbers don't lie. They do not lie. So going to follow the numbers today, or I should say this Sunday, and just go with the names that we've put faith in these last 2 years, and have shown that we can win with them. We hit Reddick last year. Who else? I mean, we hit a lot of road course winners last year. I think we hit both Reddicks, hit the Larson one. So feeling pretty good, feeling pretty confident. Yeah, that's what I've got. Like I said, anything that comes from me post practice, post qualifying, that's Johnny on the Track on Action Network. That's at JOTT_podcast on Twitter. If you're a first-time watcher, subscribe. We just hit over 500 subscribers, which is amazing. Thank you guys so much. Next stop is 1,000. If you're a first-time listener, make sure you rate the NASCAR Betting Preview Show podcast. Rate them. We appreciate it. And like this video. If you're watching on YouTube, do it all for us. Come on. Because you know why? If you like this video, I think that means we're going to win. That's just how it is. So there it is. Appreciate you guys as always. Like I said, close. Next stop, 1,000 subscribers and 1,000 podcast listeners. That'd be good as well. Yeah. But like I said, appreciate you guys. Let's have a weekend at Indy.